Joining me now is Derrick Johnson. He's president and CEO of the NAACP. And boy, where to begin? And I know we booked you to talk about the California report today. Obviously, we've got affirmative action. Let me just start with, the whole premise of the NAACP was to fight on behalf of African Americans for rights that weren't given to them. And then the government took over that for a while, and I guess now it's back all on your shoulders. Am I over-exaggerating here a little bit?
I don't think you're over-exaggerating. I think you're spot on, and it's always been on African-American shoulders to blaze a trail to ensure equal access and equal treatment under the law. Today is the bookend reality of where we've always been, a Supreme Court who are opining to deny African Americans opportunities, and a commission who was pushing forward a set of recommendations to ensure that African Americans, the descendants of slaves, the descendants of Jim Crow, are made whole because of state, federal government sponsored discrimination. And so that's where we are.
It's interesting to put the two together. If there were reparations, maybe we wouldn't need affirmative action?
And that could be the case. The thing about this report is not just about money. It's about public policy and the harms that public policy have done against African Americans. And so there's an overemphasis on the money, and money should be a part of it, absolutely. But if we don't fix the public policy, how African Americans still today are being mistreated through the implementation of laws, we're going to find ourselves in this same conversations for 3 additional decades.
Do you expect to be in court a lot more than you were before this ruling on whether it's employment or college admissions?
Well, that's the nature of the NAACP. Our role is to make democracy work, to ensure equal protection under the law is afforded to everyone. So we was in court in 1930, we was in court in 1920, we've been in court in 1960. And I believe until society embrace diversity and treat all citizens equally, we will be in court 30 years from now.
What do you think a university, let's take the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. They want to have a diverse campus. How do you think they're going to have to go about it? If they come to you and say, help us do this within the confines of the Supreme Court ruling, what would you recommend?
Well, I commend the president in his speech today to talk about an adversity standard, a standard that takes into account one's ability to pay for college or the history of the family, take into account whether or not that individual have faced adversity, including discrimination, take into account the quality of education, because we know that where a person goes to school, that zip code determine whether or not that person has been denied access to a quality education. An adversity standard is race neutral, but it could address the very ills that we have spoken about for decades now. Public policy sanctioned violence against the African American community through the denial of equal opportunity and access to a quality of life.
So is there legislation to be passed, or is this more of we got to expect institutions to develop their own policies?
Well, for us, we are an advocacy group, so we're going to be pushing for public policy. If the court said we cannot use race as a standard because of strict scrutiny, we have to look at a race-neutral policy. And I think the president today, in his speech, led the way. An adversity standard, I can support that. I grew up in the city of Detroit during a decline of the city, and resources was taken out of education. And because of that, many of my schoolmates did not make it out of the many traps that was put in front of them. That is unfair, and we're robbing this nation of a future that's inclusive and of the best talented individuals.
How do you harness this following sort of conundrum of public opinion? There's broad general agreement we need diversity. And then when you say, okay, but we're going to have to do it this way to get it. No, don't do that. Right? Everybody's for diversity as long as it doesn't impact them. I'm being a little facetious, but how do you harness that?
Well, let's be clear. The American public, by 63%, said to the Supreme Court, do not mess with affirmative action. So there's strong public support for diversity, and we must embrace diversity at all costs. It's going to be hard. Some people will be uncomfortable, but there's a track record for that. People didn't support reparations for Japanese Americans in internment camp. You still have people who are Holocaust deniers, but people should be made whole. When there's state-sanctioned violence through public policy or physical, there should be state-sanctioned repair.
Interesting way to put it, state-sanctioned. Very important phrase there. Derrick Johnson, president of NAACP, thanks for coming on, sharing your perspective.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.